I'm going to try to mix in some expensive players with some very cheap players in this video and give you a good idea of what their actual costs are right now. But before we get into the buy lows this week, let's recap who we had last week and see if we can still potentially look to trade for one of these guys. Last week, we talked about Dallas Goedert. Well, the man broke his arm. I am sorry about that. Trust me, I haven't been on a ton of teams, and it is painful. We talked about Devon Achane. I think with Devon Achane, we just got some great injury news. Looks like he'll be good to go coming out of the bye week next week. We talked about David Montgomery, which great news. Looks like Montgomery will be good to go this week. Honestly, if you did not buy these guys last week, you probably missed the boat. If we're tracking their community rankings over on flogfantasy.com, they're both trending upwards. We talked about Chris Olave, and with Olave, probably missed the boat if you did not trade for him. I mean, went out there, great game against Chicago, finally scored that touchdown. And just to reiterate why we are going through and buying low on Chris Olave, when you can find a wide receiver that is a young, proven talent, consistently seeing target volume, that is someone we want to be buying into, right? And with Olave, he had been averaging about 10 targets per game in games where he was healthy. And yeah, now he scores a touchdown. Not much has changed, though. He's still the same guy he was before. Now, Kenneth Walker was someone that we talked about and looks like a big whiff on this. And honestly, I want to sit here and admit, Kenneth Walker, not in a great spot. We'll be talking about another running back in his backfield later on in the video. We talked about Deebo Samuel. And then lastly, we talked about both T. Higgins and Joe Mixon. Higgins, for like the third video in a row, calling him a buy low candidate. Can no longer buy low on Higgins. Probably can't buy low on Mixon either. I mean, the reason we are going through and talking about these guys as those potential buy low options is just given the health of Joe Burrow and expecting that offense to be significantly better going forward and much more touchdown opportunities for both players. But now let's get into some of the players that we are going to be looking to trade for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off with our first guy, we will be looking at Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields, back after his Washington game, was that sell-high player for us whenever you were looking at him being viewed as a top 3 to 4 quarterback in fantasy. I mean, people were losing their minds. They saw Justin Fields in a Thursday night game against Washington have 4 passing touchdowns, have over 300 total yards, and they didn't know how to act. I mean, they were going out here and acting like Justin Fields not an NFL bust. Now, we will leave that for another video, but we are going to stick this to fantasy football, fantasy football, fantasy football, where I only care about fake fantasy football points, of course. And in fantasy football, Justin Fields is a viable quarterback. I'd say Justin Fields is a great quarterback. The reason being is the rushing you have in Chicago. This is a quarterback that has had 59 rushing yards week 1. 3, but with the rushing touchdown. Then 47, 25, 57, 46. So Fields has consistently shown that he does have the rushing upside and make a difference in fantasy. And on top of that, if you are looking at what we have with the Justin Fields injury, this isn't a lower body injury. It's not like Justin Fields pulled a hamstring or Justin Fields tweaked an ankle, and we have to be worried about a limited mobility skill set for Justin Fields coming back in. Nope, Justin Fields just had a thumb injury. It's like, can he throw the ball or not? Probably not. Couldn't beforehand. But doesn't matter if he is going to be able to go out there and run the ball. I think we should be very excited. If he starts against Carolina, I think he's a locked and loaded quarterback that you have to start this week. Obviously, we don't know if he'll be playing this week, though. I would rank him more so as like the QB6, QB7. And if you're looking at the flogfantasy.com community rankings right now, he is more so around QB10, QB11. He is currently at 62 overall in those flogfantasy.com community rankings. Now, going over to someone else that we called a sell high after the Thursday night against Washington. DJ Moore was that sell high player for us. I mean, people didn't know how to act. DJ Moore was coming off a game where he had 131 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown against Denver. DJ Moore had the 230 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns against Washington. People are coming out here trying to make an argument of DJ Moore over CeeDee Lamb rest of season. Since then, obviously, a lot of this had to do with the Justin Fields injury. But DJ Moore has fallen down to earth quite considerably, where you're seeing 51, 54, 55, 44 receiving yards per game. And in reality, I'm honestly kind of impressed with this. And this is more so realistic for what we should assume that we get with DJ Moore going forward. You're not coming out here and saying, okay, this is going to be a wide receiver that just dominates in a great offense. No. DJ Moore slides in the bucket of wide receivers that is going to see a ridiculously high target share in a very bad passing offense. It doesn't matter if Justin Fields is the quarterback here. It doesn't matter if I was the quarterback in Chicago. It's going to be a very bad passing offense. The volume is going to be at the bottom of the league. But why you value DJ Moore is because he is going to see a ridiculous target share in this offense. So he should be viewed very similar to someone like Garrett Wilson in my mind. That's about the range where he belongs. However, if you look at the community rankings on flockfantasy.com, he's right next to and right behind someone like Deontay Johnson, right? And just to explain one more time, if you don't know how these rankings are calculated on flockfantasy.com, obviously you have the expert rankings. Those are my rankings and then all the other experts that we have accumulated. But the community rankings is derived from all the users of flockfantasy.com. Completely free if y'all want to go check it out. But yeah, you go to the page, it'll ask you to rank 4 players. Then we take that data and then we accumulated all together to come up with this rankings list. We've already had over 100,000 matchups submitted, which is awesome. And that is why I'm willing to say that I think that's the best list you could be looking at realistic trade value right now in your fantasy football league. Now, going over to our next guy, I want to be looking at someone else coming off an injury. Kyler Murray is a quarterback that I want to be a little bit hesitant with. And that with Kyler Murray, full transparency, I don't think that he is a great NFL QB. I'm not going to come out here and say that, oh yeah, Kyler Murray is a locked and loaded top 6 quarterback from a real life perspective. The Arizona Cardinals are going to be great now that he is. No. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but what I can say with Kyler Murray is historically every single season Kyler Murray has been healthy. He has been a borderline top 5 quarterback from a fantasy perspective, similar to Justin Fields based off of rushing. Now, it's a very bad situation that he'll be stepping into in Arizona. And I was a little hesitant and thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe he's just not going to be able to overcome how bad this team is, especially if we're looking at the fact that this offense got literally shut out last week against the Cleveland Browns. But with that being said, you go over and you look at what Las Vegas sportsbooks are currently putting the Arizona Cardinals with. They are essentially in a pick'em game here against the Atlanta Falcons. Right now, they have an implied team total of almost 21 points. They have the same implied team total this week as the Texans, as the Steelers, directly ahead of the teams like Tampa and Washington. So Vegas sportsbooks are telling us it's going to be an okay Arizona Cardinals offense. Kyler Murray's a quarterback that's shown some rushing upside in the past. So I'd be fine going through and saying that Kyler is going to be a top 10 QB rest of season. And if you lost someone like Cousins and you could get Kyler on the cheap, I wouldn't mind it at all. Now, I'm going to pull up, see if we have another injury update with James Conner. And as I do this, let me remind you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy for Thursday, you can find that link in the live chat in the description. I know a lot of people are going to like Adam Thielen for more than 72.5 receiving yards. And yeah, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And a Bryce Young special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard for this Thursday's game. Now, going over and looking at James Conner. This is a running back that right now is directly behind Alexander Mattison and Hollywood Brown in the community rankings, and directly ahead of Evan Ingram and Zay Flowers. James Conner is being valued as a low-end RB2, high-end RB3, and I'm a buyer at that price point. Looks like there's a shot that James Conner does make it back this week. If he doesn't, not the end of the world. He'll be back the week after. And with James Conner here, this is a running back that earlier in the season, we got to see what the volume looked like. Now, I'm not going to include the game against Cincinnati because the game against Cincinnati, he did get hurt, so I think we can remove that. But outside of that, you had 62 carries in 4 games for James Conner at the beginning of the season. So you're averaging slightly fewer than 15 carries per contest. We go over to the targets in this offense. he's averaging about 2.5 targets per game. Not great, but at least he's getting involved somewhat as a receiver. Now, of course, with James Conner, he wasn't phenomenal in fantasy. I mean, week 1, he goes out there, he gives you about 11, 12 fantasy points. Week 2, he gets you about 16. Week 3, he gets you about, if my math is correct here, actually a decent week, maybe 19, 20 points. And then week 4, very tough matchup going up against San Fran. He only gets you about 6, 7. But with that being said, James Conner was okay. He was that low-end RB2 in a very bad offense across the board. Now that we have Kyler coming back in, even if I don't think that Kyler is a great real-life quarterback, I think he's going to be at least about average. I am not saying he's going to be phenomenal, but I don't think he's going to be that bad. So I think the situation will be better for James Conner. And he has the guaranteed touches in this offense. Now let's go over to Deebo Samuel. I just want to reiterate, and I know we talked about Deebo a lot, so I'll be brief. This is a wide receiver that is going to be an every week starter for you once he does come back. For that reason, I think this is someone that you should go out there and you should rank that way. And instead, if you pull up the community rankings on flogfantasy.com, the guy that he's directly ahead of currently is Jordan Addison at the wide receiver position. And if I'm projecting this out going forward, right, if you're telling me like Deebo Samuel versus Addison rest of season, Deebo has a lot going for him in that one, Deebo Samuel is going to be in a much better offense. 2, in the case of Deebo Samuel, you're going to be looking at a wide receiver that's already through his bye week. And with Deebo Samuel, he is on a contending team. This is one thing that I really do like looking at, ladies and gentlemen. That will be those players that actually have something to play for at the end of the year, right? Because while I can go through and I can say, oh, okay, Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, DJ Moore, James Conner, these guys in very bad offenses are intriguing guys if we get them at the right price. I'll admit something to you in that they don't really have the incentive to keep on playing if they go out there and stub their toe on the kitchen corner, right? I mean, if they go out there and stub their toe on the living room couch. Now, with Deebo Samuel being on this 49ers offense, he will be highly incentivized to go out there and be a competitive option. Week in and week out, I don't think that they have any incentive at all to shut him down. So I'm completely fine going out of our way and seeing if we can get him. Now, going over to our next guy, we'll be looking at Zay Flowers. Full transparency, I did not draft a lot of Zay Flowers this year, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking at Zay Flowers, and I was that idiot that ranked him as the wide receiver 4 in this rookie class. Yes, I had JSN, I had Quentin Johnson, I had Jordan Addison out of him. Obviously, the embarrassing one there being Quentin Johnson. The reason being was Zay Flowers stayed all 4 years in school. Historically speaking, not great for your expected hit rate, not great for your ceiling year 1, if you look at the historical data. But with that being said, Zay Flowers has actually been a great rookie wide receiver. Zay Flowers this season has 62 targets, 472 receiving yards. And I understand the past 2 weeks have been bad, right? The past 2 weeks, you have a total of 30 receiving yards against the Seahawks and the Cardinals. The week prior, you only have 4 receptions against the Detroit Lions. But if we remember what the Baltimore Ravens have done over the past 3 weeks against Detroit, against Arizona, against Seattle, none of these have been football games. The Detroit-Seattle games, 38-6, 37-3. The Cardinals game, while I understand, yes, the score at the end of the day looked close. It wasn't a close game. I think everybody knows that by now. So Flowers is still a rookie wide receiver that was very impressive at the beginning of the season. That has seen consistent target volume. He's been in very weird game environments as of late. And I don't expect that the Baltimore Ravens continue to go out there and win games by 30 points and allow Gus Edwards to just average 2 touchdowns per game through the rest of the season. Now, I want to be brief with Gabe Davis because Gabe Davis is someone that we had as a sell high guy last week. And it's very easy with Gabe Davis. I mean, whenever you're going to see Davis go out there and blow up, have 87 receiving yards, the receiving touchdown off of 12 targets. And I have a bunch of people in the comment section going, Mason, you were way too low on Gabe Davis, you idiot. Obviously, this is someone that we need to start. About that time, Gabe Davis is going to be a sell-high candidate for us. And then when Gabe Davis gives you his vintage game where he goes out there and he has 2 targets for 0 receiving yards, and he falls down to being ranked behind Cortland Sutton in the community rankings on flogfantasy.com. And nobody thinks this guy's startable. He's probably a buy low player, right? He's going to be an extremely volatile option from a week-to-week perspective. Probably projects out to be a wide receiver 3 rest of season. So yeah, if anybody ever thinks he is now all of a sudden a weekly starter regardless of matchup, probably want to sell the guy. But at this point, probably want to be buying him low if you can get him as that wide receiver 4 when I believe he's a wide receiver 3 instead. Now, a cheap little pickup that is currently 134 in the community rankings on flogfantasy.com, directly out of Demario Douglas, Kenneth Gainwell, Luke Musgrave, is going to be Zach Charbonnet. If you look at Zach Charbonnet here, while yes, the game log, not great. You're looking at him seeing 32 carries so far this season. Only 12 targets at the same time. We have to remember a couple different things here with Zach Charbonnet. One, this is a rookie that naturally is going to have a smaller role at the beginning of the season, and that role will continue to expand as the year goes on, aka go look at your guy in Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs. Not saying Zach Charbonnet is Jahmyr Gibbs. And then B, this is a running back that dealt with an injury earlier in the season, which obviously is going to hinder his progression. And then let's go ahead and let's throw C on there as well. And that if you are looking at what we have with Zach Charbonnet, this is a running back that has been in very bad game environments. I want to be on record in saying Zach Charbonnet is not going to be startable from a week-to-week perspective. But based off the efficiency that we have seen with Zach Charbonnet, based on the ascension with him seeing more and more snaps in this offense, now back-to-back weeks where he has out-snapped Kenneth Walker, I think that we can say that if you were to have an injury to Kenneth Walker, then at that point, Zach Charbonnet would be a must-start option. He's nobody until then, but if that were to occur, I think he's a premium handcuff RB. But I think that's all we have for this video. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. And of course, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And last but not least, if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the description in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and the Bryce Young special pick'em, more than less than half a total yards, so make sure you take advantage. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.